Hey, everybody, it is your favorite person, Comic Cask, coming at you with a little Swamp Justice Radio on 97.7 FM. If I don't have the thing to read here, I can't figure it out. So, WVFF. No?
Yeah, 97.7. I thought it was LPFM, but just FM.
97.7 FM. I'm not even sure they're playing us anymore, but I'm kidding. So we got Swamp Justice today, a little background music coming up. I literally produced this song. We're using it for our intro and outro. Go ahead and I'll put it in the comments. You can click on it, Spotify, listen to it. I think it's a cool song. Swamp Justice Radio, because we live in South Carolina and I live in South Carolina.
Yes, you do.
And we look at us matching today.
Isn't that fabulous? That's, great minds think alike.
Yeah,
Actually,
I have
had it on, and I ran and got one too. I think
I
everybody
have my Moselle Hunting Lodge shirt on, Islandton, South Carolina.
What does yours say?
Mine says Moselle Hunting Lodge, Islandton, South Carolina.
Mine doesn't say. Mine just has chickens on it, I think.
I used to sell these things, and
yes, you should.
and they would all yell. The people who sold $15 a month Discords for free to access to write hate and free access or access to free documents would call me a grifter because I sold a T-shirt. He's a grifter. They don't even know what the term grifter means. It's so dumb.
That was going to say, maybe we just need a different dictionary, or we all should be using the same dictionary, because it's
you think?
Because we don't seem to understand meanings for words in a similar way. Like the idea that you're an advocate for women while you're viciously attacking women, to me is, there's an inconsistency there. Maybe it's just a problem of a bad dictionary. They need a better dictionary. Just a thought.
Right. And if you, by the way, Elaine Greenwood from Super Woke News needs no introduction.
Just for fun.
Give you an introduction?
I'm the illustrious Elaine Greenwood. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, well, listen, every time I say that, you yell at me. Like, stop it, Jim.
I know. What is it? The other day, I told you.
Like, follow, subscribe, hit that little button right down. Yeah.
Is there a subscribe button? It's right there. Yes, it is.
Yeah, I took it off.
No, the other day, I told you to go out and water the birds. I asked you if you were feeding your birds, and then I said, go out and put out some fresh water. And you said, screw that. I've got a pond, and if they can't get water from the pond, who cares? And I said, I want you to obey me. And, you have children. You have two daughters, and I have a daughter. I don't think ever in my entire life I have ever said to anybody in any context that they have to obey me. But growing up, that was a thing. I'm Catholic. I was raised with the nuns who had to obey. You're laughing, I can tell. Okay, so anyway.
I just hit the laugh button.
Okay, so let's get to what we're talking about today. Is there anything going on that I should, because we haven't done content for a couple of days now, maybe a week, I don't know. So what's going on in South Carolina? Let me pick a topic that's interesting. What about the Office of Disciplinary Counsel for the Supreme Court of the state of South Carolina? Is there anything going on with them that's of interest to you or maybe to our listeners?
Oh, well, since you brought it up,
randomly,
let's just get into that. There is an attorney in South Carolina. His name is Eric S. Bland. And he has decided, Eric Bland, yeah. He has decided, make sure it doesn't have your address on it. Make sure, Eric S. Bland, there it is. He has decided he's going to attack me. And attack me, and attack me, and attack me, and continue to attack me. And while he's doing this, he's justifying attacking me because he says, when I say these things, And he admits that he said these things. He called me all kinds of names. I mean, all kinds of names on not just one platform, not on two platforms, on three platforms. Though he made it a point to tell everybody that follows him and follows the Luna Shark, because he's a host on Luna Shark. He's no longer just a guest, he's a host. Attorney Eric Bland, our host on Luna Shark, whatever that show is that they have.
I think it's Cup of Justice.
Well, he's about to drink from his own cup of justice because the Office of Disciplinary Counsel for the state of South Carolina Supreme Court has opened an investigation into Mr. Bland. One that he didn't believe, by the way, when he attacked me.
Didn't he mock you? Isn't it actually one of the rules for attorneys governing their professional conduct is they're not supposed to be mocking people that appeal to the South Carolina Supreme Court's Office of Disciplinary Counsel. So when you file a complaint, if the attorney that you filed the complaint about becomes aware that you have filed a complaint, they are specifically not supposed to be attacking you for any reason related to that complaint, or to malign you, or to harass you, or bully you, or try to intimidate. Right. And apparently Eric Bland, I guess, was busy that day. He missed that day in law school, or he missed those questions on the bar exam where it specifically instructed him that he's not supposed to do exactly what he's been doing. Is that kind of what's been going on here?
That's exactly what's been going on here. And I have 9 different times I have sent in complaints to the ODC. And it's not because I'm just a pissed off guy sitting at home, like, oh, what can I do today? Oh, I'll just, wreck Eric Bland's life. No, not at all. The only reason that, and I've never in my life ever sent an ODC complaint against anybody. The first one was on December 4th of this year, because on December 2nd or 3rd, he decided he was going to come and attack me. And let's just put it this way. Yeah, it was December 2nd. On his Twitter account, his attorney-affiliated ex-Twitter account, to publish an attack on me. You ready for this? He called me a scumbag. He stated that I crawled out from under a rock. I'm not sure what that reference means. Falsely accused me of using his photo for my own purposes. He's like, oh yeah, he's lifting himself up. Like Eric, let me just explain something to you, Eric. I have 116,000 followers on TikTok who absolutely are rabid fans, love my content. Alex Murdaugh's not guilty. I solved Stephen Smith. They all know it, except for you. And you think I'm trying to lift you up? I think last time I looked at your TikTok account, which you blocked me, you had maybe 3,000 or 4,000 people, including Mandy. You guys are nothing over there. But so apparently I'm trying to lift myself up over on TikTok for him.
But the essence of it, at that point, the essence is that you have created content. You've actually responded to what they had requested. If anybody has any information that could lead to an arrest related to Stephen Smith's death, we're offering this $50,000 reward for that information that would lead to an arrest. And so you did that. How did you become a bad person for doing what they had begged? He was on every media platform I can think of, begging for somebody, to help them solve this.
Mandy, Liz, Eric, Beth, David, you name it. Please, anybody with any information. It doesn't matter if you think it means nothing. Please. Okay, great. So my attorney sent Erica an email asking for the copy of the contract for the $50,000 reward. Right. And he sent her over to David Moses, who was welcoming at this point. I mean, I'm so happy you reached out. We are so excited to work with you and your client. They didn't know who the client was yet. And here's the copy of the contract. And it basically says some legal jargon, but for information that leads to the arrest. Okay, that's it. Arrest of person or persons responsible for the death of Stephen Smith. The arrest from David Moses. I was just going to say wife of Mandy Matney, husband of Mandy Matney. And Eric Bland was copied on said email. I just spilled some coffee. So everybody is aware of now what the contract is. Not only Eric, not only David, but my attorney who sent it to me. This is before I released my article. So to give you the background on my article, sorry, I'm getting coffee off my keyboard. To give you background on the article, in June or July of this past summer of 2025, I reached out in my in-depth investigation, an ongoing investigation into the death of Stephen Smith. I reached out to an individual who was very close to a guy by the name of Patrick Wilson, who has been named by the state of South Carolina as a person of interest in the death of Stephen Smith. And lo and behold, I recorded this conversation. It was about an hour and a half long. And in that conversation, this person finally said, after 10 years, they were there the night it happened. They were with Patrick Wilson and Sean Conley, the other person involved in this. When they came back to the house where Patrick lived, they were there. They heard Patrick say, I think we hit someone. I think we killed someone. And it went on for an hour and a half. Of all the bad things he's done and said these things. And I made sure to, you're talking about Sean Levi Conley, Patrick Austin Wilson on the night of July 8th, 2015. And we out, yes. It kept, okay. So I wrote this article up. I contacted my attorney. I said, I'm not going to publish this. I need to get it to SLED because this thing is going on for too long. It's been 10 years. So I met with SLED at my attorney's office, and I handed over all that information. In fact, I'm still working with SLED. I just sent him some information the other day that he requested again through their investigative Axios platform. So
now wait, Jim. SLED had never interviewed this person that you're talking about that you have
no
not
one
named,
has. No one has.
Had heard Patrick Wilson say this, had never been interviewed by SLED. So you're
Correct.
giving SLED new information about brand new, where this person hears Patrick Wilson make statements related to the death of Stephen Smith.
Correct.
That's what we're talking about on July 8th of 2015. So this is important information, and in every way conforms to the offer for $50,000 for information leading to the arrest of somebody, because this is definitely information that could lead to the arrest of someone.
It's new information and it's material information. Now,
yes.
Patrick Wilson and Sean Conley they are not new information. They're well on SLED's radar.
Right.
Those particular names, but this has gone the step further.
Because
and this is not hearsay.
Right.
In fact, when I called Eric Bland after I talked to Sandy Smith, and after Sandy Smith told me on the telephone that I have given her more information about the death of her son than any SLED agent ever has, I literally had goosebumps. I still do when you hear that. But she said, "Can you call Eric?" I said, "Yeah, I'll call Eric." So I called Eric and I told him that. And I told him the legal parameters and how it was, and he's like, "Yeah, you're absolutely right." He's like, "Wow, thank you, good job." Sent me a text. Thank you for the hard work. I'm thinking, great. Eric's on board. Sandy's on, but this was October 15th, by the way, in the fall. So I gave SLED plenty of time to do their thing. And I even informed my attorney informed SLED when they were going to do it, when I was going to post it. And I told him that in the beginning. I'm not going to hold on to this forever. I'll hold on to it so you can do some things, but I'm not going to hold on to this forever. And so, so then I got off the phone with Eric and he sent me a text. I have the text. It was great. And then October 17th happened. You know what happened on October 17th?
I'm going to take a wild guess. It had something to do with Hulu.
Yeah, Mandy Matney. She found out that the Stephen Smith case has been solved. And guess what she did?
Which just screwed up Hulu's narrative completely.
Yeah.
So they all of a sudden they're going to attack you because you're threatening.
Called me a cruel liar. A cruel liar. I'm like, what am I lying about?
Right.
If I'm a liar, then SLED, come arrest me because I gave you false information. But I didn't. Right. I gave them true material, new information.
What are you lying about? What an awful thing to say to her legion of psychotic groupies to target. What she's doing is motivating them to hate you.
Right.
And what have you done wrong? You actually investigated and have firsthand knowledge.
I got out of my office and went out and talked to somebody.
And you recorded it. You turned it over. You discussed it with your attorney. You never monetized it. Never even tried to monetize it. You even withheld publishing it. You gave the information to SLED, and then before you published it, you gave the information to Sandy, which you didn't have to do at all. And you were doing that because you have respect for Sandy as a grieving mother. And
still do.
I think you believed all of this boohoo. All I want is just the information about what happened to my son. That's all I want. But that doesn't seem to be what they wanted at all. Because when they had this information, the only people it harmed were the people pushing this other narrative that Buster Murdaugh was involved, that it wasn't a hit and run death, that it was murder, that his body was moved after he'd been killed, moved to the center of Sandy Run Road. This whole narrative, which is entirely false, fabricated, is very, very lucrative. It's a very lucrative narrative. And you became a direct threat to their income stream. Because, we've crunched the numbers.
I guess.
They make a pretty good living with this narrative that just doesn't hold up to any scrutiny at all.
That's true. So then they came after me. And so if I'm such a cruel liar, why is SLED still asking me for information when I tell them I've uncovered new information that's very material to the case of Stephen Smith? Would you like it? Yes. Here, post it to this link. That was 2 weeks ago in in January of 26.
Yeah, because you've got even more information. And I don't know.
More information has come out.
I know.
It's unraveling, people. It's unraveling. You can sit there and you can believe Mandy Matney and go to the gates of hell with her that Buster Murdaugh did it, and you'll be wrong sitting there at the gates of hell. It's wrong. She's wrong. She's monetizing this. It's not Buster. Stop with the Buster stuff. There's no proof whatsoever it was Buster. Just because he showed up in the Mate report, so did Sean Conley and Patrick Wilson. She doesn't talk about them. They're in the Mate report.
Which is awful. Yeah, because they didn't fit a narrative that's lucrative. Hulu,
Netflix, it didn't say murder.
Yeah, they wouldn't be doing content about Patrick.
By the way, that Hulu show, I think, if I remember, I didn't watch it, but somebody had sent me something because it's fiction. If you watch the Hulu show, it's fiction. Yeah. They even say that at the beginning of every single episode. It's a disclaimer. Yeah, but the Murdaugh boys were carrying baseball bats.
Yeah. Okay. So I've really been upset about the baseball bat thing since I first saw the trailer for the Netflix documentary back during the trial.
Which was also a bunch of baloney.
Yeah, but I first heard the narrative from Sheila Tutterow, who was very, very connected to Sandy Smith. In fact, you can talk to your good friend Suzanne Andrews. Sheila Tutterow's husband sang at that when they had a ceremony when they unveiled the gravestone, the marker, the headstone. And so there was this story that was coming from Sandy Smith through Sheila Tutterow to me that Stephen had been sodomized with a baseball bat there were supposedly four people, Buster, Paul, and two other people that they actually identified. I'm not going to drag them into it because I've never seen their names in print except maybe once. Yeah. But anyway, That was the narrative that was there, and that he'd been murdered somewhere else. And then you have these crazy law enforcement saying, well, it can't be a hit and run because his shoes are still on. Yes, it can. If he's hit by a slow moving vehicle, it absolutely is a hit and run. And then there was the narrative that Dr. Erin Presnell was willing to risk her medical career, her whatever that was, 13 years of postgraduate education to become a medical doctor, then a pathologist, a residency trained board certified pathologist. And she's the head of one of the largest departments of pathology in this country. She's one of the most respected pathologists in this country. And she supposedly risked all of that to do a favor for Alec Murdaugh back in 2015, when she looked at the body, I think on July 9th, maybe 10th. So why in the world would she do that? I'm telling you, as a fact, no medical doctor would risk their medical career as a favor to Alec Murdaugh under any circumstance at all. I think even if you had a gun to their head, they'd say, no, I put too much into this medical career. I'm not risking it to do a favor for you. It was so outrageous. But they didn't. Dr. Presnell's credibility was just barely a speed bump for them. I mean, they barely just bounced over it while they ignored it.
Well, it was the South Carolina Highway Patrol guy that was adamant that there's no way.
Who amplified that? It wasn't the New York Times that amplified it. It wasn't the New York Post. It was
the Island Packet.
Right. Who was at the Island Packet then? And why would they amplify
Mandy Matney? By the way, I was told by Callie Lyons that Mandy was lured away from the Island Packet because Will Folks had gotten the mate report and basically offered her the mate report and free reign to talk about Stephen Smith. And that's why she left the Island Packet to come to, well, that's what I was told why she left the Island Packet.
Back a bit though. So when did that supposedly happen? Was that back? Because Mandy wasn't covering Stephen Smith so much in 2015 as she was in 2019 after Mallory died. I don't think that at the time of Stephen's death, anybody was really covering it much at all. Because that would have been in July of 2015.
There was random, John Monk did it one time. He was at the Island Packet.
There was
random people.
And there were a couple other attorneys, not attorneys, journalists that worked either at the Island Packet or the Post and Courier, I think is the other publication down there. So there was, I think one guy was, it's actually, I have their contact information. It's on this phone, but neither one of them is involved with journalism in the Low Country right now. One has, I think, a radio show down in Florida, and the other one is back at Kansas State, maybe teaching, or maybe he's a journalist in the community somewhere in Kansas, which is kind of where Mandy came from, isn't it? Anyway.
Shawnee Mission, Kansas.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
Anyway, so, but there's something odd about how Stephen Smith's death, I think it's interesting to explore, when did Mandy become attached to Sandy Smith? And when did Sandy Smith start soliciting funds or generating funds related to the death of her son? Because we know that there were some GoFundMe accounts. I think Suzanne Andrews actually had two related to generating money for a headstone for Stephen and things like that. Yeah. But I think that the relationship between Sandy and Mandy Matney that went back years earlier. I'm kind of curious.
Could have. I don't really know when that is, but the point is they have attacked me for this information. By the way, as a sidebar,
yeah.
Well, I do want to share the screen because today is actually Stephen Smith's birthday. So happy birthday in heaven, as they say. But I have written a book, my fourth book, and it is about Stephen Smith. And let's make sure you back over here. Here is the book cover. This is the official launch of the book cover, Heartbreak on Sandy Run Road, the investigation into the death of Stephen Smith. Don't you like that picture of us? It's a good picture of him.
Yes.
Look at me with the big beard, looking good.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
I'm kidding, but
I know.
this book here is about the death of Stephen Smith and the full investigation that I've done over many years and articles that I've written. I go into the boat crash, I go into the Murdaugh murder investigation, but mainly this thing surrounds because I think in the evidence that I have gathered and the evidence I have given to SLED and SLED as wanting more of is that the whole thing starts with Stephen Smith and it ends with Paul Murdaugh and Maggie Murdaugh. But this is the book about Stephen Smith. Heartbreak on Sandy Run Road, by the way, is also a song that I produced, which is also on Spotify. I'll put that down there as well. There's a song that goes along with it.
Barcode in the book to the song?
I did. You know what? As a writer, as a journalist, even though Mandy loves to say that I'm not a journalist, even though I have 1,000 articles that I've written myself on my webpage, written now 4 books, produced I don't know how many songs, do these podcasts, and I forget what else I do. It's so much, but I don't even. Huh?
Some new analytics about your the CC News Network website. Your audience.
Yeah, well, you're jumping all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the new ones. Anyways, happy birthday,
book-
Stephen! Heartbreak on Sandy Run Road. You can also get the song, but in the book, we as journalists always anchor something. You know, if I type in Eric Bland and I've written a story about Eric Bland, I'll put in an anchor, as we call it, and it's a clickable link to a previous story. And so that gives you kind of more context without putting all the context in there. And you can't do that with a book because there's nothing to click because it's paper. So what I thought was in this particular book, instead of putting the anchor in there, I'd put a QR code. So now I've got when you go into the book and you read and you talk about Sandy Smith and the interview I did with Sandy Smith, I've got a QR code there that takes you right to the YouTube video of Sandy Smith and I talking. The Patrick Wilson interview, that's up there. I don't have the interview with the confidential source because
it's still confidential.
It's still confidential, and they would be identified. But yeah,
I love that because you talked about doing that. But Jim, I want to
throughout the whole book.
Is the book available for purchase right now?
No. Well, it could be if I wanted it to, but I'm going to wait. It's February. I don't think it's a great time to launch a book. Okay. I'm going to wait closer to summer, kind of summer. We'll see what this whole Murdaugh thing happens. I don't know. It's timing. I've got a couple of months to promote it.
Instead of a hyperlink to the article, you've got a QR code to the article. I think that's a fabulous idea. Absolutely fabulous, because it does. I
talked to a publisher not yesterday. I don't know. It was the other day. Who wants to publish this book for me? I don't know if I'm going to go that route or not, but their mind. They were like, and we had a glitch there, but they were like, wow, no, we really haven't seen that. Like, we know what QR codes are, but within the book, I'm like,
idea, Jim. It's absolutely great. And then if you have excerpts of the book online, then they can be hyperlinked. You don't need the QR code, but for the book, you got the Q. I think that's a fabulous.
Yeah. So you're reading it, you take your phone out, click, boom, you can listen to it, or you can read whatever article I link to it. Try just give it more text. So that way I'm just not, putting this giant book out there, 700 pages.
To jump ahead here, but don't you have another book in the works about our other dear friend, Mark Tinsley? Isn't that one coming down the pipeline?
Well, and that one is more in the air. Let's call it that way. There's nothing. Well, Jim, there's a little something written down, but it's more concept. I'm not even going to get into that, but it's not a whatever is going to. I'm sure what everybody's thinking is, oh, it's a destroy Mark Tinsley book. In concept, it's not.
No,
it's just about him, but it's going to take a lot of work.
But he put himself at the epicenter of everything, so it's fair for us to inquire, who is this guy? Is
Right.
he this white knight on a horse riding in to be a champion for the little people and for justice, which I would love it if that were true, frankly? Or is he just the most manipulative, tenacious little blood-sucking weasel ever to, to appear in any sort of judicial context, which again, I would love if that's what he was. Or is he just simply an extremely manipulative guy with a vendetta against the Murdaugh family that has just simply run amok with a narrative?
Well,
that
we're going to find out.
Yeah, so I that's the book I'm also waiting for. But I think it's good to have some sort of definitive landmark book about Stephen Smith as a reference, because a lot of us got sucked into caring about him and about his life and about how he died. And we did buy into a narrative that I think is so destructive. It didn't help Sandy to have a false narrative out there. Doesn't help Stephen, God knows, but it did harm innocent people like Buster Murdaugh, and it's wrong. And so we have a vested interest in wanting an accurate narrative out there. And I'm glad you wrote this book. And when you publish it, whatever, it'll be, I'm sure, a great resource to understand what the world is going on. But you think it started with Stephen? See, I think it kind of more started with the death of Mallory Beach, and then people reached back to Stephen and then kind of tripped over the death of Gloria Satterfield and incorporated those things in. But it was really in monetizing the death of Mallory Beach that all the rest of this sort of coalesced into one huge narrative.
I would agree with that. I think Mallory was the linchpin, so to speak, that kind of connected all this together. However, you're going to read about it in the book, is the friend group, that circle of friends. And it goes outside. By the way, everybody, just so you're all clear, that when I say circle of friends, I'm not talking about just the kids that were in that boat. I'm talking about the friend group that expands beyond that. Neighbors, grew up together, dated, related, hated. There's a group of probably about 15 to 20 that I think is a pretty tight group, but that's the group I'm talking about when I say that. So don't confuse friend group, or when I say that it was the friends of Paul that took out Maggie and Paul, and you think I'm referring to people in the boat. I'm not. Okay, well, kind of,
That's
but that
thing though that it's almost like tribalism. There's a tribe, your larger group of friends that might include family, like you said, that's either dated, related, or hated, but they act as one organism and they take their secrets to the grave, is what I've been told by people that grew up down there. And that is a very compelling, interesting dynamic that you don't see in other parts of the country so much. It is no longer a quality of Americans and American life to have those kinds of tribal bonds,
right.
To spread out. So that's something sort of unique to the, I guess, or maybe just, I don't know, but that makes the story very, very interesting. But so it is the building block though, in sequence of time. It is Stephen Smith's death, then Gloria Satterfield, then Mallory, then this enormous narrative about the evil Alec Murdaugh empire. But anyway, so let's get back to what you're doing. So you have solved the death of Stephen Smith. It was in fact a hit and run death. People should read the book to get the details of it. But
the details are in there.
Is what?
The details are in there.
Yeah. Okay. So now, but you're sitting there thinking, this is good. I feel great. I did something that no investigative journalist did. I actually interviewed people. There's a thought. And went door to door and actually went down and looked at what physically happened, what the road was like. You did reenactments of what could have happened, what did happen, how it happened. You looked even at the make and model of Stephen's car and all kinds of things to see who he was, what he was doing, and what happened, who are the likely people responsible for his death. So in every way, Mandy and Liz Farrell and Eric Bland and to a degree Will Folks and Mark Tinsley should have been thrilled. It was like, well, we've got at least this solved. Yay. We weren't able to do it. Yay. This guy, Jim Seidel, did. Yay. And he doesn't, it's not his opinion about what happened. He's saying, here are the facts.
Not my opinion.
Right. Draw your own conclusions, but here's what this firsthand, eyewitness is saying about what happened.
Here's the evidence.
Right.
And yeah.
Instead of being in any way, like FitzNews didn't say, hey, man, we all should be thankful Jim Seidel did what we were unable to do. Maybe they didn't want to do it. Maybe they knew the truth and it just wasn't a lucrative narrative. I don't know why they didn't report it. But instead of any of that, some supposed journalists just sort of stay quiet about it. But Bland and Matney and Farrell, they went right for the jugular with you.
Oh my God. He called me a clown, called me sick, deranged person, called me a whack job. Here's a sentence, and I quoted this in one of the 9 ODC complaints. I mean, it just, if you don't want me to send any more complaints in, Eric, stop attacking me as an attorney. But this one is my client, Sandy Smith. So he's referring to her on the podcast as an attorney, that his client, okay? So he's trying to separate, later on, we're going to get into a little bit, where he's trying to separate, when I go after Crab and Cask, I'm going after him as a podcaster, not as an attorney. So we're going to get into that. Let's put a pin into that, but let's finish this one. My client, Sandy Smith, wants Jim Seidel and his crime cask prattle. I don't know what that means. Maybe it was just the way that I transcribed it.
It's you rambling.
Prattle. Okay. Well, there you go. He's so smart. Not to be within 1 billion miles. 1 billion. From discussing. So I got to be somewhere... Saturn, maybe. I don't even know if it was in the. I don't know how big this universe is. Investigating or being a part of discovering the reasons for and what happened regarding her son, Stephen Smith. So he is declaring, stop looking. She doesn't want to know. This clown, what sick, deranged person, what a whack job. End of quote.
Wow. Yeah.
So what this is, and these statements are, according to the ODC rules, are knowingly false. And so Mr. Bland is fully aware that he exchanged cordial and cooperative messages with me. And I provided those messages, those cordial and cooperative messages, to the ODC, thanking me repeatedly for my hard work and acknowledging the legitimacy of my investigative reporting into the Stephen Smith case.
Yes.
Encouraging me to take it to SLED, which I don't know why he keeps saying that. I told him, one of the first things I told him was, I have been working with SLED since July. And somehow he keeps saying, I just told him to take it to SLED. No. I told you I took it to SLED. Stop changing the narrative. And engaging in ongoing discussions with me, which he did, and never once objecting to my reporting or involvement, and his public claim that I have no frame of reference, I'm a clown, I'm a whack job, or engaged in harassment is knowingly inconsistent with his prior communications. Knowingly inconsistent with his prior communications. And then you've got malicious and defamatory, where Mr. Bland is a high-profile attorney and a public figure. He repeated false accusations, not only to harm my professional reputation as a journalist, they intentionally incite public hostility. And then there's a violation of multiple ethics rules, which 4.4a, which is the respect of the rights of third persons. And it says a lawyer shall not use means that have no substantial purpose other than to embarrass, delay, or burden a third person. Well, guess what? I'm a third person. And he called me a clown, a sick, deranged person, and whacked up. I don't think that has any legitimate legal purpose and is meant solely to embarrass and harass. There's 8.4. I go on. There's 2 more.
Go.
Actually, there's 3 more.
Go.
Conduct prejudicial to the administration of justice by speaking, by publicly attacking journalist, moi, and attempting to intimidate a member of the press who is reporting on a case of substantial public interest, Stephen Smith. Mr. Bland undermines public confidence in the integrity of the legal system. Then there's 8.4 C, stating or implying an ability to improperly influence government agency. In previous communications, he invoked SLED leadership, claiming information was known to Chief Keel 2 years ago, implying access or influence not available to the public. And then there's 8.4C again, conducting that involving dishonesty, fraud, deceit, or misrepresentation. In his new statements, misrepresents our prior communications where he thanked me, my role as a journalist, the truth of my reporting, and his own prior engagement of my investigative work. And this is not mere rhetoric. It is intentional, knowing misrepresentation. And then there's an ongoing pattern of misconduct. And this is now the third. This is the letter. This is the third letter. His attacks, in my opinion, at this time when I wrote to this letter, are deliberate attempts to kill the lawful investigative journalism, intimidate a reporter, damage my reputation, discredit factual reporting, and mislead the public, and interfere with my professional work. Those are things you can't do as an attorney. Now, if you're some regular Joe Schmo off the street with a microphone, yeah, pretty much you can do that, although you're stepping into defamation and slander per se, or defamation per se and slander. But you're not going to be disbarred or suspended or fined or publicly reprimanded by the Supreme Court.
As private citizens, we do have a right. It's never been we can say whatever we want. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater, for example. So our right to free speech isn't absolute and without any boundaries. But when you become an attorney, you're bound by the rules of professional conduct, and you can't put on the cloak of I'm an attorney, now I'm not an attorney, now I am an attorney, now I'm not an attorney. And he cannot be part of this cup of justice as an attorney or as an attorney representing Sandy Smith.
Well, I just want to make this, inject this, and you'll love this because you're a constitutionalist. The First Amendment, and it states that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people to peaceably to assemble to the petition the government for a redress of grievances. Congress. It doesn't say the ODC. It doesn't say your employer. It doesn't say Time Magazine. It says Congress. So there are limitations to what you, whoops, I lost her. There are limitations to where did she go? Poof, she's gone. Well, hurry on back. And, but that is it. That's the First Amendment right there. And so what I think he misunderstands, and I'm trying to text her, of course my phone doesn't work. What he doesn't understand, Mr. Bland, is that when you cry about the First Amendment, Congress isn't stopping you. I mean, just say that again so everybody understands. Congress isn't stopping you. But let's go on. I've got ODC number 4. Number 4. Can you believe this? I'm already on ODC number 4. And again, these are not letters, folks, that I am writing on my own, saying anything on my own, making up my own opinion on my own about anything. Here she comes back. About anything. What I am doing is every time Bland comes out and attacks me, I am taking he called me a liar. I'm taking screenshots of what he has done to attack me.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hey there. So I'm taking screenshots of what he has done to attack me. And
Jim, I can't hear you.
Then oops.
Hey.
They chose to mute. It says you chose to mute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. It says you chose to mute yourself. So when he calls me a liar, yeah, I can hear you.
Nah, I can't hear you. I'm going to drop out, come back on. Give me a second.
Okay. So when he tries to call me a liar for this, I'm going to take you off stage here. When he calls me a liar for this, I don't know what I'm lying about, because what I'm doing is taking screenshots of your social media. So if, as you say, I'm lying, then that means you are lying. I'm not making anything up. Everything comes from you and what you have said. Let's get to ODC. Oops, is she still goofing around? Let's get to ODC complaint number 5, shall we? Excuse me. Now, ODC number 5 is dated 12/18. He was not in the Christmas mood. I can tell you that. And on or about 12 or 18, respondent Eric Bland published a public social media post on Facebook and X under his verified account, attorney account, and to a large public audience, in which he, again, or number 5, publicly mocked or prejudged the outcome of the pending ODC complaint. What that means is he was making fun of the Office of Disciplinary Counsel publicly and laughing, and that's not a good thing. Asserted that the ODC would dispose of the complaint in an expedited manner, which they did not. Ridiculed. Whoops, number 5. Where'd it go? There's so many of here. Ridiculed the complainant, moi, for invoking the disciplinary process. I literally used what the government gives as a check and balance against attorneys, and I was ridiculed for that. Made degrading personal attacks against me, falsely stated or implied that the complainant was convicted of a crime that I've never been convicted of. That is defamation per se. You're going to get sued for that, so expect that to come. Falsely asserted, and the complainant does not have a legitimate employment. I don't know. Again, they keep going after me. I just want to say that it was the end of January, or the end of 2025, where I published my 1,000th article. I've written now 4 books, produced numerous songs, have over 200,000 social media fans across many platforms. If this doesn't make me a journalist, I don't know what does. And falsely asserted that the complainant does not have a legitimate employment and falsely claims to be a journalist. I don't get it. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, I can. But it's such a reckless disregard for the truth. Eric Bland has this delusion, I guess, that he's gotten away with doing this, so it must be okay. But he is defaming you. It's defamation per se. When you accuse somebody of committing a crime they didn't commit, it's defamatory on its face.
It's a smear campaign. It's a discredit campaign, and people are like, oh, contact is parole officer. I don't have a parole officer. Stop it. But do you see what happens is when he says things like that, he gets everybody all excited and thinking that. So now I have people out there who are hating me because of his actions and what he, Mr. Bland, Attorney Bland, is saying. And not only that, he's making fun of the ODC. He said the ODC is going to throw this out. This is stupid. No, this is a serious thing.
Yeah.
And we're kind of getting in maybe too much of this, but I'm going to get into number 9, because number 9 is I think the most interesting, and this comes off of this Cup of Justice episode that they did this week, where I did an article about this, as a matter of fact, he wanted to escape his attorney ethics by calling himself a podcaster. I shit you not. I shit you not.
Ridiculous. He can't do that, and he can't be. I'm Eric Bland, attorney here on Cup of Justice, as an attorney. In fact, as the attorney for Sandy Smith, and yet somehow, when I say this thing that's defamatory, it's defamation per se. When I attack Jim Seidel this way, I'm taking off my journalism. I'm taking off of my legal professional responsibility cloak, and I'm something else. I'm this. I mean, he jumps.
But here's the problem, Elaine. Here's the problem. When he's introduced on Cup of Justice,
yeah,
and I used to listen to it when I thought they were telling me the truth, but they were lying to me. Back in 2021, but I don't listen to him anymore. But when they do introduce him, because I do get the transcripts, he's introduced as a South Carolina attorney,
yes,
counsel in high-profile litigations,
yes,
and a legal analyst offering professional insight. And he gives his legal opinions, discusses pending legal matters, and references disciplinary proceedings, invokes court processes, and cites his experience as a lawyer to bolster credibility. So he's trying to take off his attorney hat,
right?
Because he's got a microphone in front of his face.
No, he's just made this up out of whole cloth to avoid getting disbarred. He's just made up this new theory. It's the Eric Bland theory of applicable law, which says, I want to monetize. I'm the attorney, so my opinion carries more weight because I'm an attorney. He's absolutely utilizing his bar association connections, which means that what he does is governed by the bar association without any question. And he's made up. But now
Well,
be
let me give you the exact quote. You ready?
Yeah.
And I quote Eric Bland. Let's see if I can do it in his voice. You've got to understand the civility oath that we take deals with us dealing with opposing counsel or adversary parties or the court. When I make those statements, guys, I'm Eric the podcaster. I'm Eric the book author. I'm not Eric the lawyer.
Yes, you are, Eric. Yes, you are.
Hold on. Let me continue. I'm still in quotes. When I made the statement that he was a scumbag, that wasn't me as a lawyer. I was doing it like you do it, Mandy. Plus, I get a First Amendment right. End quote. I'll let you just tear that one apart.
Okay, first of all, Eric, you don't have a First Amendment right to defame Jim Seidel. Nobody has that right. That's not a right. That's one.
I must have missed that in law school.
Eric, you idiot. When you sat for the
She
bar,
said that, by the way. So, Eric, she said that. So next time you go out attacking people, attack her, not me.
Yeah, attack me. Okay, don't attack Jim because it'll piss me off. But anyway, but see, Eric, you idiot. You are a professional. You're a member of the legal profession, and you are guided by rules and regulations that bind you to the kind of conduct you can have in public. You cannot do whatever you want anymore once you have become a member of the Bar Association as a profession, and you most certainly can't enrich yourself by being part of a podcast where you are banking on your credibility as a member of the bar. What you're saying to Mandy's audience is, my opinion is more valuable. It's more likely accurate because I'm a member of the bar. And as a member of the bar, I'm bound by certain rules of ethics and conduct. And then you're just ignoring all of those rules because when you get caught abusing those rules, when you get caught saying outrageous things that are defamatory and they're meant to harass, intimidate, to incite hatred, he's working to incite a mob of Mandy Matney's groupies to hate you. And he's successful. And he only has to be successful with one person who goes too far for him to be, for really, really bad things to happen. But this is what that.
Yeah, I may be contacting the FBI because I don't need somebody chasing me down with a.
It's cyberstalking.
Yeah.
And he knows it. He is bound as a member of the Bar Association. He's bound by rules that you and I are not bound by. We have
So
more.
so the ODC's professional rules 407 does not recognize a carve out that allows licensed attorneys to suspend their ethical obligations by changing platforms or labels. And it says the rules apply to lawyers at all times, not only when they are in court or representing the client. While attorneys do retain First Amendment rights, as he asserted, those rights do not override professional standards governing honesty, civility, and conduct that undermines public confidence in the legal system.
Ding,
And
ding.
public statements made by a licensed attorney, particularly when the speaker is introduced as a lawyer, offers legal opinions, and invokes legal authority, remain subject to disciplinary review, regardless of whether they are made on a podcast, in a book, or on social media. It does not, the First Amendment does not protect false statements of fact by lawyers.
Or by
Period.
anybody.
End of paragraph.
End of paragraph.
The founding fathers are shaking their head looking at Eric Bland right now going, really?
Well, actually, the Bill of Rights, those are, like the First Amendment is an amendment because of the Constitution. The Bill of Rights are an amendment. So it's not the founding fathers that created the First Amendment and the rights from the First Amendment. But anyway.
You know what I'm saying.
I do know what you're saying. I've said this before, and I believe it's true, that people think that practicing attorneys have studied the Constitution.
And applause for that one.
Jim, now listen, this is a good point. So listen, people think that practicing attorneys have studied the Constitution, and they have not. It's like thinking that a medical doctor has studied immunology or nutrition. They don't. So there are a lot of attorneys that are profoundly ignorant about constitutional law. Eric Bland is ignorant about the First Amendment, what it means, what rights he has, and apparently he's profoundly ignorant about what the rules of professional conduct for attorneys licensed to operate as attorneys in the state of South Carolina, what that means for him. He has no concept that it actually controls his behavior.
Well, Farrell and Mandy at Matney also repeatedly framed the criticism of Bland as an attack on free speech. So somehow me turning this information over from what he did to the Office of Disciplinary Counsel is an attack on his free speech. And that framing misunderstands the issue entirely. This is not about suppressing speech, as Farrell falsely writes in a post promoting the podcast, period, end of story. It is about regulating his professional conduct. Why am I the one why are we the ones having to explain what professional conduct? He took an oath. He wants to go read what the rules are. They're online. Go look at them.
And he's bound by them. He is bound by them. And his ignorance of the rules of professional conduct will not be a defense. But I have never found any direct line between intelligent thought and Mandy Matney. She is the ultimate Karen. Everything is personal to her. Everything that happens in the world is personal to her and a reason for her to take an antidepressant drug. And she can say anything.
Well, I don't know about that, but
I definitely feel that this is a woman.
That's your opinion?
It is my opinion based on.
It's not my opinion.
I have one of her sponsors for her episode, her content was somebody that you call up and you get a prescription for some antidepressant drug. Over the phone.
All right. Well, let's get off of that for a second because
let me make a point here, and it's my opinion. But when you have people that think that the world revolves around their feelings, that their feelings matter, their feelings trump reality, they trump defamation law, they trump everything. So what Mandy's doing is operating from a point now where you threaten her. Threatening her lucrative deal with Hulu, or
I am not threatening her. Eric Bland.
It's the narrative you're threatening, Jim. You're a threat to them, and that's a
perceived threat. I am not threatening them whatsoever. I'm just doing my job as a journalist. If that's Jim, their perception, that's their perception.
Right. That's exactly what I'm saying. Her perception is that you're a threat to her. Frankly, you are. You're a threat to them monetizing.
Because I reveal what the real evidence is.
Okay. Yeah, no, the truth, honesty. I hate to use the word truth because there is some subjectivity in this. You're not saying I, Jim Seidel, know everything. You're not
No.
attacking her perception of the truth. You're saying, here are some facts
I'm saying
that,
it's not the whole
that
truth. Let's get into the truth. Yeah.
but what you're saying is the narrative you've been pushing doesn't hold water. It doesn't stand up to a factual review. You're not attacking her at all, but she perceives it as an attack. She is, if you
Well,
listen.
now she is under attack because Matney's now fighting a two-front war, actually a three-front war if you add me into this. But we've got the Beach v. Parker 392 case and the other defamation case involving another woman Mandy attacked, Alexandria Stasco. And then you've got Farrell in the 392 case who was deposed for hours about her alleged involvement in receiving confidential court case material from attorney Mark Tinsley.
Jim, how did they view that? They viewed that as a personal attack instead of
Well,
understanding.
yes, but let me finish.
Okay, go.
That this is what in the ODC, this is what blows my mind, and why people don't just catch this. Is that in the civil litigation arriving from Mallory Beach's Parker's case, Liz Farrell was deposed by attorney Mark Moore, who represents Greg Parker and Parker's Kitchen in that lawsuit. Okay. Farrell described sitting for more than 7 to 8 hours of questioning by Moore as part of the discovery process, including extensive personal questions, which she and others involved characterized as harassment by the Parker legal team. She even called attorney Mark Moore, Mark Yo Money Moore. So again, go into the name calling. These are adults calling people names. Okay. Grown ass adults calling people names. But there's also evidence that Liz Farrell encouraged her audience to file complaints with who?
The
with
ODC.
who? The ODC.
Yeah.
She went out and said, let's go. Let's fill the ODC up. And regarding Mark Moore's conduct during her deposition, which apparently she's never been in a deposition, doesn't know how one goes, but
so she saw, this is the Jim, you're hitting right at the heart of what I'm saying.
Yes.
She was threatened by that. It threatens her. And when these women are threatened, there's no intelligent thought where they say, this is a normal process. What happened? The questions I was asked in a deposition are the kinds of questions that you get asked when you're deposed. Nothing unusual about that. I'm not being harassed. To be asked questions in a deposition is not harassment. It's a right that a defendant and the opposing party in a lawsuit has a right to ask you those kinds of questions. And if they were improper questions, you put them before a judge and a judge will rule that the questions were improper. But you don't go on a podcast and defame the attorney asking those questions when he's doing what you do, what attorneys do in depositions. They seek to find information that could lead to the discovery of admissible evidence.
But guess who is sitting there listening to her and acknowledging her the whole time?
Tinsley.
Well, maybe, but no, Eric Bland, the co-host, attorney Eric Bland.
Oh, while she's saying that?
While she's saying that, and then weeks later goes and attacks the ODC. Like, what is it? It depends on what day it is. The ODC is awful or the ODC is great. It depends on if the ODC is great, if they're going to help my friend Liz Farrell try to defend herself by receiving all this information that she said she received from Mark Tinsley. Yeah. So what is it on the ODC? I don't get it. But here's what the thing is. The ODC does not punish viewpoints. It addresses false statements presented as fact, harassment and retaliation, intimidation of critics, and misuse of public professional authority and conduct prejudicial to the administration of justice. For attorneys, licensed attorney. You don't want to listen, Eric, retire, turn in your license, stop being an attorney. Then you can go and say these things all you want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He just can't say them as a licensed attorney. But yeah, he
Oh,
can.
wait, no, when he says those things, as he admitted, he's a podcaster. He's Eric the Podcaster.
There is no Eric the Podcaster.
That's a new t-shirt. That's a new t-shirt. Eric, I'm like Eric the Podcaster.
Jim,
and here's the picture of Eric the Podcaster, by the way.
I know. I don't know where you got those are the worst pictures. Anyway, listen, there is no Eric.
They posted those, not me.
I agree. Listen, there is no Eric the Podcaster exception to the rules of professional conduct that bind attorneys practicing law in South Carolina. It does not exist. I checked. Okay. But at the heart of this is these people are delusional. Eric is the same way. Any criticism of him
allegedly
it so unrattles, so unnerves them or rattles them that they respond by viciously attacking a critic. You and I, we don't agree on things. You will say, Elaine, I really disagree with you, and I'll say the same. We don't attack each other because we have different opinions. We may argue about how we interpret it or why we believe what we believe, but I don't, attack you and you don't attack me. For some reason, and I think it's very much this. These people think they're the epicenter of the universe, that they cannot see anything but their point of view, their feelings. And if you, God forbid, threaten their feelings, that epicenter of feelings, they're going to attack you. And that's what they're doing. They're not attacking you based on intelligence or wisdom or an education or anything that we could admire or respect. They're coming at you like little petulant children. When you call them out on what doesn't make any sense about a narrative or something they said or whatever, it threatens them to their core, and now threatens them financially, and they're going to attack you personally. So you present content that is a threat to them financially or in any way, they attack you personally. They don't attack
constantly, not only personally but professionally. Here's December 23rd, where Eric Bland released episode number 650 of Cup of Justice podcast, titled "A Purple Christmas." During the episode, Bland made public statements disparaging me and my company, Crime and Cask Investigations, while attempting to obscure the target of his remarks through indirect language. When he said in the episode, Bland refers to an individual as slime and crass, and states that he is sick of his stuff, and complains to his listeners are being ground up by lawsuits scheduled for trial in May. A matter Mr. Bland has previously and repeatedly associated with me and my work and commentary. Although my name was not stated, the context, timing, and subject matter of Mr. Bland's prior statements leave no reasonable ambiguity to the intended subject. The method of attack using deceptors rather than names has repeatedly employed by Mr. Bland, documented in my prior submissions. This is ODC complaint number 8. I mean, he said he received a large envelope from the ODC. I received a piece of paper that said
ODC was going to ignore this or spit it out or not do anything with it. It wouldn't amount to anything. Didn't he say he had to come home early from his trip to Italy or something? Or I don't know.
Oh, he said he came home from his trip from Italy, and was ready to take on the new year. And then he gets this giant fat envelope from Personal and Confidential to Eric Stephen Bland, Esquire. That they have
to defend himself.
Yeah, he's got to hire an attorney and all this stuff, and he's blaming me. Like, why are you blaming me? I'm not the one that went out there and called me all these names and defamed me and slandered me. And I mean, you just can't. As an attorney, you can't do that. Maybe you should go read the rules again, or for the first time. I don't know.
It would be a matter of first impression for Eric Bland to actually understand the boundaries of what his professional, what's required of him as a licensed attorney practicing in the state of South Carolina, or frankly, practicing in any state I've ever heard of. The rules of professional conduct are really remarkably similar state by state.
Well, the timing of all of this, though, and this last one that they did just this week, comes days after the CC News Network, which I own, founded, publisher, whatever you want to call me, where I wrote an article about Mandy, Matney, and Liz Farrell receiving preferential treatments. And Bland was included in that. And it was one about the text and the emails raised questions about preferential treatment, and where they talked about the Plier case, which Eric Bland was a part of. They talk about receiving information that they need to be careful of and how they present it, because Mark Tinsley's already getting in trouble and they don't want to add more fire to that. These are all text.
Wait a minute. So the Pilar case, this has to do with, this was somebody that it's alleged, and I believe that Alec is actually admitted to stealing money from them. They're one of, I think, 13, 14 individuals. When we talk about Alec Murdaugh's financial crimes, this pilot case is one of the people that he took money from. And okay, so, and it's a sad story. And I saw in some of the texts that Callie had that Liz Farrell was doing a lot of work. It seemed to me pretty obviously she was doing a lot of work that Eric Bland benefited from and Mark Tinsley benefited from, related to piecing together all of the people that Alec had stolen money from. And so she definitely has a direct conduit between, there's one between Tinsley and Liz Farrell that she identifies in her deposition. So we don't have to guess about it anymore. She admits to it.
Right.
And so, but you're saying that there are texts that say that they were aware that Mark Tinsley was violating the rules of professional conduct or coming close to violating the rules of professional conduct regarding how he was handling information that he had related to that case?
Well, that's up for the ODC to determine. However, based off of my research and evidence, it does appear so. But just to get back to the Plier case, there's another text that I have here. In fact, let me just bring it on screen so I can show you. Yeah. It may be hard to read, but it says here, this is from two other journalists, unrelated at this point to Matney and Farrell. So this is not Matney and Farrell. These are two other journalists. But they're discussing the Plier case. And they say, so there's the other attorney on the Plier case back in the day. His last name is Beecham. He got 35% of the fees and Alex and Ronnie split the rest. He had no responsibility on the case, which means it was a referral fee. And this is illegal. Eric isn't going to mess with it, though, because Beecham is a friend of the Pliers. This is how corruption works, LOL. And someone said, no shit, Jesus. So why didn't you sue him, Eric? So here's, so we get back to them. This is the Beach case. All right, so these are emails emails and could be emails and text. I'm not sure which one based off of this, but the email explicitly references the Beach v. Parker, a civil matter involving discovery, subpoenas, and anticipated appeals. High-level stuff. And according to the correspondence from opposing counsel to Mark Tinsley, disputes over relevance, privilege, and production were ongoing at the time the documents were shared. And in one email, the attorney from Nexon Pruitt assert that the documents were obtained and disseminated prior to any final order directing their production, emphasizing a court staff email referenced them. This is not in order. And that the firm states that it intended to appeal any production under a ruling issued by Judge Price on April 6th, making the timing of disclosure sensitive. And it is written by an attorney called Susan McWilliams, where she says she requests that you not review anything you have received, which, as you know, we contend as are privileged, and any review by you at this time is improper. We also request that you return those materials immediately to us immediately. We intend to seek relief from an appellate court. Susie. Well, according to these emails and texts, guess who he sent it to?
You're talking about information that was shared with Mark Tinsley. Are you saying Mark Tinsley sent those to Eric Bland?
He sent those to Liz Farrell, according to these.
Oh my God.
So here's Mandy Matney reading it. Here's a text from Mandy Matney reading it. It says, it was just the clerk who gave it to him, right? Referring to Mark. Here's Liz. Liz Farrell responds, Gooding and Gooding are the only ones who have the files.
Oh, for goodness sakes. Now listen, so this is the 392 case that they're talking about. And this is information that was eventually, the majority of it was eventually returned to Mr. Parker's. But the problem is, Tinsley obviously had already read, he even admits that he had read the information. He had dog-eared it. He decided what he thought was relevant and what wasn't relevant.
And he sent it to Liz Farrell.
That was not admitted in court in any, unless there was an in-camera hearing or something. But that was not admitted. He did not admit to doing that. And Parker's vigorously opposed Tinsley having the information or disseminating it. But this gets back to something that Tinsley had been doing. The Judicial Hellhole article in 2003 mentioned that he abuses civil process. He files a lawsuit, and once he has a lawsuit, he subpoenas a bunch of information that a judge is not going to allow him to have. And if he's lucky and he gets something, he can file something on Friday and hope that he gets something Friday afternoon from the opposing counsel. And by Monday, the defendant is going to be in court arguing that he doesn't have a right to it, but he'll already have it in his possession, and he's had it in his possession over the weekend, and he's retained it. He's retained copies of it. So when Tinsley was ordered to return this information to Parker, he was ordered not to retain any copies of it or to destroy any copies he had made of it. But I think he should have
not review it and destroy it.
Well, but to have shared it with Liz Farrell, which means it was shared with Will Folks, Fitz News, that is such an ethical violation there. Well, she was an employee. They're talking about a time in 2022 when she was employed by Fitz News. So I think that there is such an incredible violation of the rules of professional conduct related to that and Mark Tinsley's conduct. Holy cow. What's the story here, which I thought was the story back in when I first became aware that this is what Mark Tinsley was doing in the 392 case, and that was in January of 2022. I thought the story here is Mark Tinsley. The story is what the hell he's doing. And
he's sharing all this stuff. And then the attorney said, do not disseminate. Here she says, we intend to file motions for an emergency protective order today and stand by our position that your possession of these documents is improper and any dissemination likewise improper.
Yes.
Who's he sent him to?
You're saying Liz Farrell. That's absolutely.
Well, I'm not saying Liz Farrell. The document right here says her name, Liz Farrell.
That's bad phraseology on my part. You're not saying this. You're reporting on this. It's outrageous.
I'm reporting on it. Yeah.
Outrageous.
Yeah. And then there's another. You're familiar with the knife fighter docs?
Yes.
Yeah. So here's one. This is Liz Farrell sending this to Mandy. I think it's Mandy. And says, according to the knife fighter, says, yes. And then she puts in all caps, you never saw this. LOL, LOL. And the person responds, I know nothing. Liz says, knife fighter docs. Saw nothing, heard nothing, but holy hell. And Liz says, yeah. But about Greg Roman. We should do a background on him and any connects he might have to Vicky Ward. Already doing it. Yeah. Yeah. It's not good. And then they go into the knife fighter stuff where they talk about here, we have to be careful how we refer to him.
Right.
And that they have the files for a long time.
Jim, Wes Donahue did a couple of interviews with Will Folks that are video interviews. I wouldn't be surprised if they're deleted, but they should still be available on YouTube.
He just did one.
I thought it was odd. He should have been either a defendant in the 392 case. He certainly should be a witness in the 392 case. I think the 392 case is going to be the case that unravels Tinsley and what they did. And nobody would love to believe that Tinsley was a great attorney, that somebody that could strategize the way he strategized. I'd love to believe that he was a good attorney doing it for the right reasons. I would love that, even today, right now. But I don't think so. And I don't think what
I looked up for the rules, there's rule 1.6, confidentiality of information. Again, I'm not here to judge. It's for the ODC to do that, but this is what the rule says. It prohibits a lawyer from revealing information related to the representation of a client unless the client gives informed consent or a narrow exception applies. And the rule is broad and it covers not only privileged communications, but any information relating to the representation. And if attorneys provided discovery materials, draft orders, or non-public case information to journalists while production is disputed, before a final order, judge's order, or while an appeal or protective relief is contemplated, that conduct could fall squarely within Rule 1.6, the confidentiality of information. There's another one, fairness to opposing party and counsel.
Yes.
which bars attorneys from unlawfully obstructing another party's access to evidence or disclosing materials in a manner that circumvents court-ordered discovery processes. Trial publicity, truthfulness in statements, misconduct. I mean, it's just, again, I'm not the judge and jury here, and I'm not saying he did it or he did something wrong. I think if I'm the attorney over at Nexum, Pruitt, or whatever they're called now, I think Susie McWilliams should be pissed. I'm surprised the judge in the 392 case doesn't have this already.
Jim, this is part of the 392 case.
No, I know.
Is what,
But,
okay.
but my article, what I'm saying is that my article is dated January 22nd, so just a week ago. I'm sure this is getting ready to get dropped right on the judge's lap.
And Bentley Price.
Time to get deposed again, Liz.
Yeah, no kidding. Bentley Price is no longer a judge. He's no longer serving on the bench. I don't know if he was disbarred, but he's no longer a judge. He was the attorney that made a lot of rulings favorable to Mark Tinsley in the 392 case. But
he was removed.
This was hotly contested, how Tinsley acquired this information. And basically, Sandy Sen, representing, I believe, West Donahue, or gave him, it was a Friday afternoon, and Tinsley said, hey, I've got this order. I'm serving you with a subpoena. I want all this information that you have. Sandy should have said, no, we're going to have to put this before a court. This is clearly, Parker's is going to allege that this is privileged. I'm an attorney. I understand this. I'm not giving you a thing until I actually have an order from the court that's signed. And that's not what she had. She had a memo, kind of like, you remember when he pulled the memo out of his pocket in court during the murder trial?
Yeah, and theatrics, everybody thought it was great, but it really wasn't.
It wasn't great. It's not great. It's an abuse of civil process, because the memo from the judge is not the same as an order. Trust me, anybody that
he knows that. And he knows that. That was for theatrics only.
Every attorney commenting on that trial should have said, this is not a great moment for Mark Tinsley. It shows him to be either an extremely unscrupulous man or a total idiot. But that is not an order. I'm responding to an order of a judge. It's very specifically labeled order. It's not a memoranda in support of. Right. Anyway, but Sandy Sen went right along with it. She shouldn't have. She absolutely should not have. But anyway, then Parker spent the good part of 18 months clawing back their right to this. There were over 6,000 documents when all was said and done. And Tinsley is talking to the Bentley Price about how he's dog-eared them and he's gone through them and whatever. And Deborah Barbier or Parker's legal team is saying, you're not supposed to be reviewing these. You're not supposed to have them in your possession at all. They are our attorney work product. And this, no question about it. And so this is goes to the heart of the 392 case. But for him to have disseminated them to Liz Farrell, honest to goodness, if I am part of Parker's defense team, I hope that they're following your content and understand this, but this is huge for them. It goes to what was really happening in the 392 case, which goes to the heart of why, I hate to say this, but I think there are, a personal opinion here, I think there are definitely grounds to have Mark Tinsley disbarred for what he did just in that case alone, the 392 case alone. And this is not, we want to have attorneys that are white knights, that are saviors, that are plaintiffs' attorneys, that will vigorously, aggressively represent their clients. And I applaud Tinsley if that's what he was doing, but he just crapped all over the rules of professional conduct. He has blurred the line. And, I've made a lot of content about that. How close to the line did he get? Did he cross the line? I think he did. I think again and again and again, he crossed the line. This is the line, the rules of professional conduct, the thing that he cannot do. We know he communicated with a represented party, Sarah Capelli. We know he was instructing her to fire her attorney. We know that she felt trapped by Tinsley. We have the verbatim text exchanges where she says, I feel like you're setting me up here. I feel trapped by you. And Tinsley we know that we have those transcripts because they were filed in the 392 case. I think right then that Bentley Price should have move to have the case dismissed and to have Tinsley's conduct reviewed by the rules of professional conduct, because I think he had gone too far at that very early point in this litigation. I hate to think what he's done since then. But what's, for me, for all of us, one of the reasons we care about this is we have to hold attorneys accountable to a standard of conduct. We need attorneys. Plaintiffs need attorneys. We need quality people to represent us in a court of law, but they can't be playing fast and loose with the rules of professional conduct. And when Tinsley was weaponizing Fitz News and Liz Farrell and Mandy Matney to push a narrative that would benefit him to the tune of millions of dollars in this civil lawsuit, the 111 case, that is an ethical challenge that we cannot allow to just slide on by. If Liz had said, look, I don't want to be a journalist, I'm going to be just pure PR, we'd say, okay, then be PR. And we'll listen to your point of view from that perspective, knowing you're actually working for Mark Tinsley to secure this multi-million dollar settlement in this case. And we say, okay, that's the context. But that's not what they did. They said, we're independent journalists. They said, we are journalists, and that we're not colluding with Mark Tinsley. When I think that,
the text all say to do. I'm looking at a text right now between Mandy and Liz. And Mandy says, no, this is Liz. Agreed to do the jury walked out in the middle. She was family friends with Greg Parker. And I bet her ass is in junior league in Savannah with Sarah. I wasn't allowed to tell anyone what case the jury was for, so they all got surprised in the Zoom. Mandy says that makes sense. And then Mandy goes on to say, I'm going to sleep so good the day we finally expose her ass. Liz says, me too. And Mandy goes, and Seton Tucker, same. It's so sleazy. Mandy says, can't wait to publish the pic of the two of them chit-chatting. Listen, if anybody for 1 second thinks that Liz and Mandy are protector of women, they are the people who tear women down, and I have the proof, and I'm going to expose this proof because it needs to be out there, because until they go out and admit it and change their narrative that we protect women or strong women, no, you try to tear down strong women who are actually stronger than you. And I've got the text to prove it, and it's coming. So be ready. It's this thing is just nuts. And we talked about the Netflix thing, that is just all coming from, where did it come from? It came from Mandy and Liz. And where did Netflix get it? They got it from Fitz News, because who got it from where? Mandy and Liz. And where did Mandy and Liz get it from?
Tinsley.
Mark Tinsley.
If
you watch the Netflix episodes, all that stuff, this is how it came from Mark, gave it to Liz, gave it to Mandy, gave it to Fitz, gave it to Netflix. I don't know why Buster's not suing more people than just who he is, but this thing is nuts. And this is why they're all mad at me.
I don't get why they're mad at you. I don't think Buster understands how much he's only touched on the tip of the iceberg of this collusion to harm him. And I don't think
that's a whole nother episode. Yeah. We're an hour and a half into this. You want any closing statements on Eric Bland?
Well, Eric, you disappoint me, son. You just disappoint me. There maybe at some point was potential. Supposedly he was a legal malpractice attorney, and that's a special kind of attorney who's supposed to be really attuned to the rules of professional conduct. So maybe he was a bad legal malpractice attorney. I don't know. But, everybody, early on, we all wanted to believe he was what he was trying to present himself as, this warrior for plaintiffs. And we want that. We want to have that kind of attorney in our society. We need those kinds of attorneys. And he's done such a disservice to everybody. He's made it harder for plaintiffs to get an attorney. He's made it harder. He's not the only person that he's really helped through all of this, or who has benefited from him. The only people are Liz, Mark, Mandy, and Eric, and David Moses, of course, that they benefit financially from this. But it doesn't do the justice system any good. It doesn't do plaintiffs any good.
Hey, yeah. I just got a message. Sorry to interrupt you. It's
What?
too funny to not tell. And I wish I could put it on screen, but I'm just going to go because it's breaking news. Breaking news. Mandy, Mandy, I want your opinion on this. Someone is going after Suzanne Andrews and somebody called the Real Mary B. And Mandy goes, nope, what these two have done is not normal behavior. No sane person can relate to spending all waking hours into harassing a podcaster, journalist, CEO, whatever you want to call, that has done nothing.
Wow.
Oh,
We're right back where we started. We didn't stop.
just for the record, Mandy spends all her waking hours harassing me, a podcaster, harassing me, a journalist, harassing me, a CEO, whatever you want to call it. Eric, Mandy, Liz, all coming after me. And what do? Is they go after Seton Tucker and Suzanne Andrews and Meredith.
Going
Oh my God.
after Suzanne Andrews is like going after a baby lamb. She is a very nice woman. She doesn't have, I don't think she has a.
But there she is going after and attacking women again.
And Suzanne tried to help Sandy. She organized fundraisers. She got her dad's bar involved in this huge fundraiser for Sandy. Suzanne sort of she got involved in the whole narrative because she had such sympathy for Stephen and such.
Here's one. Hold on. Here's one. Here's another text. They're talking about this Meredith person. Of course, she loves Avery, who's wife for the NP strat, which he never exposed. Blocked. Damn, she must have slipped through a long time ago. Mandy Matney. I hate that hoe. There she is, sticking up for women again.
I don't know.
There she is, sticking up for women again. I'm just gonna type in this word, see how many references I get. Yeah, I typed in the C word. We won't go into that, and it's Mandy. Woo! How many times are you gonna call people that name? Crazy. Let's just leave it on that. I don't understand. This is all just nuts. But I'm here to expose the truth as a journalist. When I see it, I'm going to investigate it and I'm going to report on it. If you don't like it, stop doing these things. Eric, you don't want any more ODC complaints. I filed my 9th one 2 days ago. They're receiving it today, based off of your cup of justice, where you are the attorney host on that, where you defamed and slandered me numerous times again. If you want those complaints to stop, you need to stop. I am not initiating these things. You are. Mandy and Liz, I have got thousands of your text messages where you are defaming people, going after people, laughing at people who have handicaps, who are in certain situations. You're absolutely awful in these text messages, and you need to stop pretending like you're a protector of women. You tear women down. You tear men down. You tear everybody down. You're trying to tear me down. Just stop and be a nice person. I don't know why it's so hard for you. You pretend to be a nice person, but it's the real life part you need to keep working on, because you're not doing it. And everybody seems to think you're just this hallowed person. Well, the truth is coming. Lawsuits are coming. Arrests are coming. Disbarments are coming. Depositions are coming. The 392 case is going to get blown up because of Liz and Mandy, and they have nobody but to blame but themselves. None.
I agree. I totally agree.
So
and it's
on that,
it's such a damn shame, because they could have been what they pretended to be, and then we would be celebrating them.
instead, they're going to be taken down, and they're going to go down in a ball of flames. I assure you of that. And it's not because I'm saying I'm going to do it. I think the legal system has had enough, and judges have had enough, and other attorneys have had enough. I hate to see what this Susie McWilliams is going to do with this information that she has about what did in the 392 case. They're doing it in the Weldon Boyd case, Scott Spivey. They're doing it in the J.P. Miller case. They're doing it in the Jane Doe 1 and 2 case. Every case that they are on is a case that who is the attorney?
Mark Tinsley.
Mark Tinsley. Which goes back to my book about Mark Tinsley. But anyway, happy birthday to Stephen Smith. Justice is coming for you, my friend, in the form of a book by me. And for all you idiots out there who are going to say I'm trying to profit off of his death, all you have to go look at is I'm not the one raising all this money in thousands and thousands of dollars. Oh, by the way, which I need to pause this for a second because there's a very important one. We'll leave you at this, where Eric Bland changed the rules of the contract. Where is that one? The $50,000 contract. Here it is. Misrepresentation of the reward contract, a knowing falsehood. All right. In his email, Mr. Bland wrote, the offerers of the posted reward of information resulting in the conviction, note that word conviction, of Stephen's death,
right,
reserve the right to determine eligibility and entitlement to the reward in her sole discretion. That statement is provably false. And the actual reward agreement, he goes on to say, provided by David Moses, states Sandy Smith is the offerer and hereby offers a $50,000 US dollars reward to any person or persons who provide information that directly leads to the arrest of the individuals responsible for the murder of Stephen Smith. End quote. But Bland's version, materially altered, so he changes from arrest to conviction.
right.
And he changes it from one offerer, Sandy Smith, to offerers, plural. And no discretionary exclusion clause exists. He falsely claims unilateral discretionary power, and that he stated I was ineligible despite me never seeking the award. This is what's called a knowingly misrepresentation of a written agreement communicated to multiple third parties, including my attorney. And such conduct, according to the ODC rules 4.1a, truthfulness in statements to others, and rule 8.4c, misrepresentation. That is, if all out of all these 9, he's changing a legal document which he had in his hands prior to him sending this changed legal document to cut me out of this $50,000 reward that he's begging everybody for information for. So when I say that their own demise is their own demise, their own demise is their own demise. I had nothing to do with this.
They're responsible for their own demise.
That's it. We'll leave it at that. Crime and Cask coming at you 97.7. I don't even know if they're going to play this one, but WVFF Veterans for Freedom Radio. And find me on TikTok. I've got 115,000 followers and growing over there. My Instagram, it's all at Crime and Cask. Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Have a lot of fun over at Facebook. And Elaine Gridwin, you can find her over on X under Super Woke News, where you get into a lot of world politics and national issues.
But Jim, I'm going to be doing something else that I'm kind of excited about. It's sort of
let's hear it.
A long-term thing. I was talking to you about this morning, so I'm filming, and I think that I will produce it as a series, probably on Rumble, because even though I hate Rumble because of all the commercials, and I hate all the ads, I really, really do. But it has to do with what's next in my life. I think we all have to be thinking about that. Where are we right now? And where do we want to be in 6 months or 3 years or whatever? And so I'm going to be focused on making content about that. I think it's important that while we take time to analyze what's going wrong, we have to also be saying to the world, here's what could go right. Here's what we can do that's positive, that gives back, that's inspiring, whatever. And so I'm going to focus on that, because I don't really like, and I'm sure you don't either, to just constantly be hitting the negative. But sometimes the negative is so enormous, we have to pay attention to it.
It's the business we're in.
Yeah,
It's
it
the
is.
business we're in. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I know you take on subjects that I admire and respect you for taking on, but they're very dark. They are very dark, and I think they're important to discuss.
Yeah.
But I want the balance in my life where I'm, kind of coming out of the darkness and looking at something that's a little lighter too. So I'm going to be focusing on that. But I'll have more information about that, and I'll announce
Good.
it on and that kind
Yeah,
of
you can announce it on here next time we go on too. All right, everybody. Crime and Cask Super Woke News. We are out of here. That's a tribute to Frank. We're out of here. See ya. Bye.
Bye-bye.